Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking about Victoria Beckham Beauty, which is one of my most used makeup brands, probably in my top 5 brand rotation right now. I've previously done a video reviewing all of their previous releases that I've used, which is mostly everything. But recently they released some shade extensions of existing products. They released new cream cheek shades as well as their Posh glosses. I actually haven't tried any of their pigmented glosses. I've only tried their clear gloss, which I'm wearing right now. And they just released a new shade of their Bitten lip tint. They very kindly sent over all of their new shades. So I'm gonna swatch everything, especially on the lips. I'm gonna try the new Cheeky Posh shades, and we're going to get into the review of the Posh gloss, which I don't think I've reviewed on the channel at all. And I'll share comparison swatches where I can. I've spoken before about the quality of Victoria Beckham Beauty. To me, this is one of the few celeb lines that actually delivers on quality, on luxury, and on artistry. And it's not a very large beauty line still, even though they have released new products. They started out with a very tightly curated range of products. And even though they have brought out new releases and new formulas, it's always very thoughtfully curated. They don't release a ton of products at once. I really appreciate that about the brand, and I think you can really tell that the creative team behind the brand cares about makeup and that they actually use makeup, because the formulas are really good and the shades are just so sophisticated and chic. Also sometimes a little bit unexpected too. So you can see my makeup's kind of halfway done. I did my base and then I put some of the bronzer in my crease on my eyes. This is the O2 shade, and I've done a review of this in the past. It's amazing. It's my favorite, all-time favorite powder bronzer. There's 2 pans, one's more neutral and lighter, and one is darker and a little bit warmer. And then on the eyes, I also just smeared the lid luster in the shade Honey all over the eyes, like pretty much up to the brow bone on top of that. I also used the Victoria Beckham liner in the shade Cocoa. This is kind of my go-to liner for when I want a bit of definition on the lash line, and I did a tiny baby wing. It's very creamy, super easy to blend out. And then my brows are done, but I don't have anything on the cheeks, and I do have some clear gloss on the lips right now. But I actually want to start with their newest release, which is a new shade of their Bitten lip tint. So if you're not familiar with these are a liquid sheer tint, but they're kind of matte. They set to like a natural skin finish. They're pretty sheer, they're buildable, but they're not gonna be super opaque. They give you kind of that blurred, velvety lip tint sort of feel. So there have been 3 shades of this formula. There's Cherie, Bisou, and Amour. I have 2 of the 3 older shades, and then I also have the newer shades and the shade that I didn't have. So I'm gonna swatch them all for you, starting with the newest shade. The packaging on these, like the rest of the line, is super chic and beautiful. It's weighty. I think these are glass tubes. You've got that like really dark glass, gold lettering, and then the tortoise shell looking cap. The doe foot applicator is really small and kind of angled. And let me swatch Poupette for you. Poupette to me looks like a true kind of light tone peachy apricot shade. It's perfect for summer, exactly the kind of shade I would wear. And you can see it's really sheer, like on the first swatch. It is buildable in pigment on the lips, but it's never going to be truly opaque. So I'm gonna swatch Poupette now. This is such a me shade. There's a bit of warmth to it. It is kind of that warm peachy pink kind of shade. And I will say, I think it's the lightest shade of the Bitten lip tint that they have released. I think it was last year that they released a shade called Amour that is a peach. It's definitely more orangey, but it's actually also deeper than I think Poupette is. And it's more of a brown toned peach. So let me swatch this one for you. So that is Poupette and this is Amour. And you can see Poupette has more peach, whereas Amour swatches with that kind of browny beige undertone. And actually on my skin tone, I find that Amour gets a bit deeper, especially once I start to layer 2 or 3 layers because of that brown undertone. I will also say it's nice to have your lips hydrated before you apply this formula because it is a semi-matte finish. It's like a natural skin finish, but if your lips are feeling particularly dry or if they're cracked or peeling, I do think the tint might sink into lip lines. So you want to make sure that your lips are prepped and hydrated and ready for a semi-matte formula, just like with any other matte kind of lip formula. So I'm going to lip swatch Amour for you now. So this is Amour. I personally have very brown toned lips, so I think these shades look different on different people depending on what your natural lip color is like. For me, because I have a lot of brown tones in my lips, this pulls a lot more brown compared to the swatch on my hand, which I think looks a little bit peachier. I personally love it. It's a very natural, like easy kind of formula and shade to wear for me. So I can already tell you that Poupette and Amour are going to be the shades that I wear the most. The other 2 shades are much more pink based and I'll swatch those for you now. The next one is the shade Sherry, and this is much more of like a raspberry berry toned shade, and it has a nice sheerness to it. It's not too deep. It still looks kind of bright on the lips, a bit of a berry kiss. So that is Sherry. And I think you can see as I'm going through the swatches that they start out a little shinier and then they set down as they dry down on the skin. So this is the shade Sherry. It's beautiful. It definitely has more depth and it's brighter for sure. It has that sort of wine-stained kind of look, but it's also not what I would call a deep lip. It somehow is like a very wearable berry kind of shade. These also do leave a bit of a stain behind as they fade. They do fade very elegantly, but you can see my lips are getting progressively deeper the more I'm swatching. I probably should have done the glosses first, but here we are. So the last shade is the shade Bisou. This one I actually didn't have in my collection. They sent it over along with the new shade Poupette. This one, it's more of like a blackberry. The previous one, Sherry, I would say was a raspberry. This one is more of a blackberry, which is at the end right here. And you can see compared to Sherry, it's much deeper. It has more of that plummy note. So this is Poupette, Amour, Sherry, and Bisou. I'm gonna swatch Bisou now. So Bisou brings drama. It's much more vampy. It's much more of that kind of sexy evening date night kind of lip. It is really beautiful. I do think of all of the shades, because it's the deepest, I find this most prone to settling into lip lines just because that pigment is darker than my natural lip tone. That may not be true for you if you have a deeper skin tone than I do. It's not bad at all. I think just compared to the other shades that are less detectable on the lip, this is definitely more detectable. But that said, it's still very sexy, it's vampy, it kind of makes you feel some type of way when you put it on. I also think all of these shades pair really well with a lip liner if you want to kind of create a more emphasized or defined lip line, or even if you want to blur it out on the edges. These don't bleed outside of the lip lines, they don't migrate at all, but if you wanted a little bit more definition or just to make the lips look a little bit bigger, you could definitely use a lip liner with these. Next, let's talk about the Posh glosses. I have only tried the clear one, which was what they first released, just a clear gloss. And then they came out with a naked collection, which was brown-based nudes. And then they've most recently come out with a spritz collection, which is pink-based nudes. These are $28, which is an $8 difference between the lip tint and the glosses. I don't know why there's such a big price jump. I would actually guess that the glosses cost more. I don't know why I would think that, but they're $28. Now, I did not think when I tried this clear gloss, or I received it in PR, that I would be that excited about it, but there's something about this formula that is so moisturizing. It's very thick, but it's not sticky. It has this almost grippy quality to it. It's the closest thing I can think of to the Fit Glow Beauty lip color serum, the night version, their clear one, except this is like 20% more gloss. That one is a bit of a drier formula. This has a 20% more glossy, traditional glossy feel. I don't know how else to describe it. These also come in a glass bottle. They come in a clear glass bottle with the tortoise shell tube, and they're really weighty. They feel so luxurious. And I also really love the applicator. I generally don't love flat paddle doe foot applicators, and this is just as flat as they come, but there's something about the shape of it that makes it really easy to apply. It almost is like a spatula on your lips, and it works really well with this formula. It's not like a thin, oily, moving around, slippy formula. It has a bit of body to it and a bit of grip. So I'm really excited to test out the pigmented versions because I haven't tried any of them. We're gonna swatch all of them. So I arm swatched all of these shades except for the clear gloss because we all know what a clear gloss looks like. But starting with the brown tone nudes and going into the pink tone nudes, I have Bikini, Tan Line, and then I realized I'm missing the third deepest nude shade, Poolside, because they're out of stock. But then we go into the deepest brown tone nude, which is called Top Down. Then with the pink toned nudes, I have Picante, Bungalow, Fizz, and Aperitivo. Let's start with the lightest brown tone nude. This is the shade Bikini. It looks really milky and like a milky baby pink in the tube, but on the swatches, it didn't look that light. It really sheared out, so we'll see. So this is the shade Bikini on. It's a very milky pink nude. It's giving early aughts, turn of the century, 2000, Xenon girl of the 21st century. It definitely cools down my natural lip tone, and in a way, because my lips are brown and this is a blue toned pink, like a baby pink, I can see like a blue tone in my lips. It's not my favorite, but I do think there is a practical use to having a shade like this around. For example, if you want to create a bit of lightness or if you want to cool down a different lip color, it is nice to have a shade like this almost as like a cool tone cooling mixer. Obviously, that's not why you would buy a lip gloss, but I do think there is a utility to a shade like this. That said, milky glosses often look terrible on me, like they sink into lip lines and you can see lip cracks and all of any movement in your lips. And this one just looks perfectly smooth, glazed over. It's not sinking into lip lines or doing anything weird, which I think is a testament to the formula. And then I'm gonna try Tan Line, which is like a peachy brown toned nude. Do you hear this cat right now? She wants her dinner. You have to wait. This is the shade Tan Line. It definitely has more warmth, and to me this is like about as light of a nude as I would go. But it's an easy nude kind of shade to wear. It would go with basically any kind of makeup look. And again, these feel really comfortable on the lips. They're thick, but they're grippy, so they don't slide around. I can tell even as I'm speaking that they're really like holding on to the lips. Then we've got Top Down, which is the deepest of the brown toned nudes. I mentioned I'm missing the third deep brown tone nude, which I think would probably be my ideal brown toned nude. Okay, you know what? I'm surprised. I didn't think I was gonna like this because it's swatched so deep on the inside of my arm, but the inside of my arm obviously is much paler than my lips. And this is giving vamp, it's giving date night, it feels very chic. And it's a true testament to this formula because Oftentimes, a very deep gloss can look really patchy on the lips if you have lighter skin because you see all of the streaks and every kind of brush stroke. But this one looks so even across the lips and it's staying put even as I'm talking, and I'm not getting like strings as you're opening and closing your mouth. You know what I'm talking about? It's the worst. I really like this, and I think paired with the right lip liner, this could give you a very sexy lip look. Like for Halloween, fall, autumnal energy, this could definitely be in the rotation. Getting into the pink toned nudes, I'm really excited about these. This is Picante, which is the lightest pink toned nude. So here's Picante. It's definitely a milky pink. It's definitely the pink toned version of the first gloss I tried on, Bikini. But in a way, because this has that touch of brightness, it is a little bit more forgiving. I don't look quite as dead, I think, as I did with that very first shade. But it's definitely lighter and milkier on the lips than it looks in the tube. Like in the tube, it looks a lot brighter and then it shears out and gives you that baby pink. Next up is Bungalow. This is giving like Barbie pink. It's that classic blue-based, almost millennial pink kind of shade. It's really fun. I think this would be perfect for me with a lip liner. I think if I had more of a neutral or beige toned lip liner, it would help ground this shade a lot, but it is really fun and perfect for summer. Next is the shade Fizz, which is a mauvey pink. You know what? I'm really surprised by this shade. I would not pick this out for myself just based on what it looks like in the tube. I don't generally go for mauvey shades, and there's even like a tinge of lilac almost in this shade, but these glosses look so different on the lips than they do in the tube. And this actually, I feel like, gives my face a bit of life and vibrancy, and it leans into mauve without washing me out, which a lot of times I feel like mauve shades can do. So yeah, I really like this. And finally, the last shade is Aperitivo. You know what? I'm really surprised because this might be one of my favorites, and I, again, would not think so looking at the shade in the tube. On the lips, it's much more of a true berry. It looks a lot more purple in the tube, but on my lips, it mixes with, I think, the brown tones in my lips and brings out more of a berry shade. So I really like this. I'm really surprised by all of these because the shades that I thought I would like the most, I don't necessarily like the most, and the shades that I didn't think I would love have become my favorites. These glosses are not necessarily what they appear to be in the tube, and I think the light shades might have a bit of white pigment in them, just a little bit, to lend that milkiness, which is why I think I like the deep shades a little bit more, because you get that true gloss, that like true lip color coming through rather than a milky veil over your natural lip color, which some people might want and they might be looking for that. But for me, I like more of a true sheer gloss. Next, I'm going to swatch the two new shades of the Cheeky Posh Cream Blush Sticks. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite cream blush formulas. This formula is one of the longest lasting cream blushes you will find. It has such a beautiful application on the skin. The pigment can be sheared out or built up however you want. It applies so smoothly. And it's also waterproof. So even if you're sweating, if you're in humid weather, I've tested it in all climates, it just lasts all day on the skin. And I don't know how, because it doesn't set to like a matte finish. It's not powdery in any way. It looks just like hydrated skin, but it looks like that all day long. So on to the swatches. The first new shade is called Fame, and it is a true mauve. It's cool toned, but it's not too cool toned. It has those berry plummy notes, and it is on the deeper side, as you can see, compared to the other shades. Next is the shade Fever, which is a gorgeous poppy orangey red. And this is the shade I've been dying to try. You know I love an orangey red. And then I swatched the 5 original shades, which are Knickers, Major, Playground, mini skirt, and roller skate. To me, the original shades were perfection, and I wear every single shade all the time, which never happens. You know, you never actually use all of the shades of a blush release, but with these, they're so beautifully curated that I get a ton of wear out of them. I also have the recently released Reflect Highlighter Stick, which is new packaging for Victoria Beckham. It comes in this beautiful gold fluted tube with the VBB or the VB on top. It has that white enamel, so pretty. And this is in the shade Pearl. I think it's only released in one shade right now. It's stunning. All of the cream sticks come with the VB embossing on top. So it is a dewy highlighter stick, so it does have that emollients, but it has a really beautiful sheen. It does have that pearly sheen. It doesn't have any obvious shimmer or glitter particles, but it does have that sheen. You know, there is a bit of, I wouldn't quite say metallic, but there is that glossy, luminous sheen. So it's the end of the day, I'm not going anywhere, so I'm going to swatch both of the blushes, one on each cheek, even if I look kind of weird, it's fine. My favorite way to apply these is to actually take a small brush and whisk it across the top or stamp to pick up a little bit of product. And you wanna make sure the product is evenly distributed across the brush. This is the Sonia G Mini Base. It's the perfect brush for this kind of application because the size is so good. And then I just stamp on. I don't have any other cheek products on right now, and this is the shade Fever, that poppy bright orange. It's so fun. Okay, I just zoomed you in a little bit so you can see better. So this is the shade Fever. I just have some light foundation on right now. It's not too high coverage. This is so pretty. This is exactly the shade I hoped it would be. I knew it would be. It has that bit of brightness, so it gives you that sun-kissed kind of look. It's a little bit tropical. And these kinds of shades work really well for me because of my golden undertones. The warmth it just works for me. So you could leave it there. You can see how it really shears out. It gives you that almost popsicle cheek kind of stain. Or you could definitely build this up. You could see how bright it is in the swatch and in the stick and how conservative I'm being here. You could definitely build up the pigment if you want. It is not totally matte, but it's also not dewy to touch. It's not like shiny or sticky or emollient. It just gives you like a hydrated skin look. On the other side, I'm gonna use the shade Fame and my Phytosurgeon's Sky Buff brush. This is an amazing cream cheek blush. And again, I'm just going to tap it onto the brush and then tap it onto the cheeks. And this is a really nice way to diffuse the blush, especially with a deeper shade like this. So I'm just tapping. I also like this method a lot better than swiping on, just because you're able to control how much product you get on your cheeks. Sometimes when you swipe on, it can be a little bit harder to blend out. You know what? I'm pleasantly surprised because I thought this shade was gonna be a lot more purpley, like a blue toned purple on the cheeks, but it actually is giving me like a nice berry flush. It's not quite as cool and purple or plummy as I thought it would be. It's definitely giving me more of that autumnal blush look. This is fall and this is summer. And then I'm just going to take a finger and dot the highlighter onto the high points of the cheek. It is kind of dewy and emollient, so I would definitely apply this before powder. I think if you have dry skin, you'll really love this. Normal to combo, apply sparingly. And if you have oily skin, this might be a little bit too emollient for you because it melts like the second my finger touches the formula. So those are the cheek products. You can definitely tell my cheeks are glossy. The Reflect stick added a lot of glow. It is a little bit sticky, so if you're not a fan of that, you may want to stay away. It's definitely a lot dewier than the cream blushes, which kind of set down and don't budge. So I think we had kind of a mixed bag today. I really loved the new shade of the Bitten lip tint, and I loved some of the glosses. The deeper shades for sure more than the lighter shades. I think the milkier shades are not really for me. I don't know if I'll be using them a ton, but you know, if you have fair skin and you never find glosses that are light enough, it might be a good match for you. I really hope that that one brown toned gloss comes back in stock, because I can just tell based on the pigmentation of the other glosses that that would probably be my favorite shade, which makes sense that it's sold out because it's probably really popular. As for the new blushes, I knew I would love Fever, and of course it's like the most beautiful summery gorgeous blush, and I already love this blush formula. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by the shade Fame and how wearable it is, because it does sheer out to this really nice raspberry flush. It's not quite as purple or as plummy or as cool toned as I was worried it would be, but you can definitely sheer it out or build it up. For the Reflect stick, it's really beautiful to look at. I almost like it more as a beautiful object than as a dewy stick. And I might like it more actually in the cooler months when I'm not quite as hot, sweaty, oily, etc. It is gorgeous on the skin, but it is a little bit sticky. Like I can feel it on the skin. So I think if you have dry skin and you need that extra little bit of juice, this would be perfect for you. If you're oily, you might want to stay away. It is, however, a beautiful tone. It's definitely sheer, but it has a little bit of champagne pearl. So there's enough warmth, I think, that it will work for deeper skin tones, but it's also not so pigmented that it shows up as a color on the cheek. The base is completely clear. So I hope that was helpful. I will obviously link everything below, as well as my original review of the Victoria Beckham Beauty line. In that video, I cover skincare, I cover eyeshadows, her lid lusters, her Posh lipsticks, her mascara, eyeliners, like everything else that's not in this video is in that first video. So do check that out. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.